Hello everyone, in today's video we are going to be going over beginning and ending your speech. So first we are going to be talking about beginning our speech, and then we are going to be talking about main points, transition statements, kind of in between the beginning and ending portion. And then last we are going to be talking about conclusions and ending our presentations. So let's go ahead and jump right in. So first and foremost, we have our introduction. Within an essay, for instance, we would have an introduction, right? You don't just start off wham, bam, body slam with all of the course related material. You don't start off with all of the information. Usually when you're attending a class, for instance, the instructor just most of the time doesn't just jump right into the content. They'll usually begin by like, hey everyone, how are you doing? How's everything going? They'll start it off with something. Usually you want to give a preview, you want to say hi, how you doing? But more specifically within our presentations, we have 4 items that we want to focus on, okay? So first we want an attention getter within our introduction. Now with the attention getter, you can use various means to grab your audience's attention. It's like the hook of your overall presentation. How can we grab our audience's attention? Our textbook has various ways as to how we can capture our audience's attention, but I'm gonna go ahead and give you 4 different ways that you could grab your audience's attention. So first and foremost, you can give a quote. So for instance, if I wanted to do an informative speech on the life and legacy of Walt Disney, perhaps I would feel inspired and I might inspire my audience by implementing a quote specifically from Walt Disney himself. That would make the most sense. The attention getter goes back to the topic at hand. So 1, you can use a quote. 2nd, you can talk about a statistic. So I've had many students discuss stress, procrastination. They've done informative speeches on all of these topics that are considerably relatable, especially for students. So for instance, if you wanted to do an informative speech on stress or college students' stress particularly, perhaps you want to use a statistic specifically looking at students in California and looking to see how stressed students currently are with COVID taking place and having to take these online courses. That's something that you can look up, and that's a great way to capture your audience's attention, but also relate it back to your audience as well and be like, hey, you all are college students. So again, first, you can use a quote. 2nd, you could use a statistic, and remember, it needs to relate back to the topic at hand. 3rd, you can use a question, which might be like, what do you mean, Cecilia, a question? Nobody's gonna respond back to me, like I'm doing this online. So a question, we can ask a rhetorical question. A rhetorical question is basically something that you don't intend or need a response back to. You could just ask a question that's generally out there like, hey, how many of you are tired of this parking situation on campus? I know I am. So see, you're not intending for other students to really go back and forth with you or some sort of response online. You're just saying, hey, I know y'all are tired of this, right? So am I. You're not looking for a response back. It's a rhetorical question. Also, if you are in some sort of face-to-face environment, a question that involves hand raising might also be engaging for your audience, for those of you who do plan on giving presentations later on in a classroom or in a business type of environment. So a good way to get your audience involved, ask questions, have your audience raise their hands like, hey, how many of you feel stressed? And then you'll have some people raise their hands and you're like, okay, well, did you know that 32% of the population, and you see how we can play off of that? We can even do 2 different types of attention getters to really grab our audience's attention and get them on board. So that's number 3. So first we talked about using a quote. 2nd, we talked about using a statistic. 3rd, we talked about rhetorical questions. And then 4th, we have a story. You know you better than anybody else. And the first 2 presentations are all about you. So the 2nd presentation, maybe you want to incorporate some sort of story that will relate back to the larger purpose of your overall presentation. For instance, I took a group communication class at RCC when I was a student there, and we had to give a presentation, and one particular student that was in my group, he could memorize information, and I mean memorize. He wasn't like looking at notes. He could memorize information so easily, and I was very envious of him. But he went through and he printed out personal testimony from an individual who had been a transient who was having difficulty paying for their own financial needs, for their children's financial needs. And so he went through, he memorized the entire person's personal testimony, and then he went through during our presentation. The very first thing that he said was the story, but he said it from a first person perspective as if it was his own story. And it was just, let me tell you, the entire audience was captivated. They were so engaged, they were so intrigued, they were just looking at him like, this happened to you, this was your life. And then at the very end he was like, this is the story of, and then he mentioned the individual's name. Stories have such a high impact. They can go back and they can relate back to your audience and of course the topic at hand. So if you have some sort of personal experience with your topic and the overarching theme of your overall topic, use a story. And now in our attention getter, we can have 1, a quote, 2, a statistic, 3, a rhetorical question, or 4, a story. These are just 4 different ways that you can grab your audience's attention. And you want to do this immediately. It is the first thing that is out of your mouth. You should not have to say, hey, my name is Cecilia. No. We know your name. We are here to watch your presentation. How are you going to capture my attention? What is going to be the first thing that you say to us? It shouldn't be so. No. What is the first thing that you want your audience to really know and get them on board for your overall presentation? And it's very, very important. So we have first our attention getter within our introduction. Second, you have the reveal of topic. So for the reveal of topic, you're just letting your audience know, hey, this is what I'm going to talk about. And you can do it in a subtle way as well, but you're just letting your audience know, hey, I am going to be giving my informative speech on stress, right? That blatantly lets your audience know Cecilia is going to be talking about stress today. Today I'm going to be talking about beginning and ending your speech. You all know this is the topic at hand. This is what Cecilia is going to be talking about. Okay, so reveal of topic. So 1, attention getter, 2, reveal of topic, then 3, you are going to want to give a credibility statement. Now with your first and second presentation, you don't need to do that. You know you better than anyone else. For your informative and persuasive speech, however, you're going to want to let your audience know, why am I credible to give this presentation? So you'll notice the first day of class, some instructors will say, hey, I have my PhD in this, I got my master's degree over here, and they're trying to establish some sort of credibility early on, letting you know, hey, I have the expertise to teach this class. These are my experiences. This is my educational background. So similarly, you want to do that for the informative and persuasive speech. You want to let your audience know, I'm credible to give this presentation because of this. Again, first, attention getter, second, reveal of topic, third, credibility statement, and then fourth, we have our preview. So with your preview, you're just letting your audience know, today I'm going to be talking about this, this, and this. It's just a rundown. It's a preface of like, hey, just so you know, I'm going to be talking about all of these different things today in this video, or all of these different things in this presentation. And it helps your audience travel along with you and follow along with you. Because without this, your audience is lost. They're like, where are you in your presentation? Right now, you all know Cecilia's talking about the introduction. She said that she was going to be talking about transition statements or something like that. And then she said she was going to be talking about the conclusion. So introduction, you are going to need 4 things. For your cultural artifact speech specifically, you need the 3. So first, you need your attention getter. Second, you need the reveal of topic. And then third, you need to provide a preview, letting your audience know, hey, in this presentation, I am going to be talking about this, this, and this, because it's a roadmap for them and they're able to easily follow along with you. All right, so that is your introduction in a nutshell. Second, within the body of your presentation, as with an essay, it is a huge portion of your overall presentation. You shouldn't be spending 1, 2, 3 minutes on your introduction. It should be brief, it should be straightforward, it should capture your audience's attention, but it should get to the point. Then within the body itself, you are talking about the content. Okay, you are going over the information, each main point. And so for this upcoming presentation, for your culture artifact speech specifically, I am giving you your 3 main points. I'm telling you, hey, you're going to be talking about an item from your past, second, an item from your present, and then third, an item from your future. And so those are your 3 main points. So in between main points, you want to have transition statements or signposts. And so you want to let your audience know, hey, I'm going from this topic to this topic. I'm going from this topic to this topic, and now I'm going from this topic to this topic. So for instance, hey, now that I have discussed my introduction and the 4 items for the introduction, let's talk about the transition statements and the body of the speech. See, I did it. I literally did it in this video. You're letting your audience know I'm going from my introduction to this, from this to this, because now your audience is able to easily follow along with you. Following that, we have our conclusion. So we talked about the introduction, we talked about the body and having those transition statements in between main points. Hey, now that I talked about main point 1, main point 2, main point 2, main point 3, now let's talk about the conclusion. So for the conclusion, you need to let your audience know, I'm wrapping this sucker up, okay? I am going to be concluding. I've had students who are like, so in conclusion, right? Have you heard people say that? So in conclusion, you're letting your audience know, hey, I'm done with main point number 3. Let's wrap everything up. Let's summarize. And that's the next step. You're letting your audience know, 1, I'm going to conclude. So you're signaling an ending. That's number 1. You're signaling an ending. And then 2, you're going to summarize, which is a general summary of like, hey, today I talked about this. Today I talked about this. It's not just I talked about main point 1, 2, and 3. No, it's a summary. It's very similar to what you would do in an essay, right? You don't just blatantly like, here you go. That's the end of my essay. I'm done. The conclusion is just as important as the introduction. What do you really want your audience to take away from your presentation? If somebody was out and about and then they stopped in and they came in at the very end of your speech, they should be able to listen to the summary and get a gist of what your presentation was about. So at the very end, you want to 1, sign that, hey, I'm going to be concluding this presentation. 2, give a summary of your overall presentation. And then 3, you want a final memorable statement. So it's not just, okay, I'm done, and then you shut off the camera. No. You want to let them know, hey, this is really what I wanted you to take from the presentation. Very similar to the attention getter. You can end it with a quote. You can end it with a statistic. You really want that last statement to resonate with your audience. And it should be memorable. It shouldn't just be like, okay, and that's it. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye. No. What do you want your audience to take away from this presentation? It is going to be the last thing they hear out of you. So it needs to be important. Okay, so in today's video, we talked about 3 items. Look at me incorporating what I am teaching you all. So today we did talk about 3 items. We talked about our introduction, which included the 4 items, which were the attention getter, the reveal of topic, credibility statement, and then the preview. Second, we discussed the body a little bit of the presentation and having main points and transition statements in between main points. And then third, we just talked about the conclusion, which goes over 1, hey, I'm wrapping up my presentation. So signing to your audience, hey, this presentation is wrapping up. 2, incorporating a summary of your overall presentation, which is what I'm literally doing right now. And then 3, relating it back to your audience or capturing your audience's attention one last time and giving a final memorable statement. All right, so in today's video, we went over all of that. It's very important for your upcoming presentation, for your cultural artifact speech, for your informative speech, for your persuasive speech. Organization is a must. And so we need to prepare beforehand. We need to know, hey, this is how I'm going to begin my presentation. This is how the body will be. And then this is how the conclusion will be. Organizing our presentations are extremely important so that 1, not only you are prepared beforehand, but 2, it makes it easier for your audience to also follow along with you and take your message and feel engaged in the overall presentation. Have you ever found that when a professor kind of just goes up there and starts talking, you're a little bit lost? And it could be because they didn't provide that roadmap. You don't know where you are in the class. You just know, hey, it's been an hour and a half. What are we going over today? We talked about this main point and this main point, but you might feel a little bit lost. So do that. Let your audience know this is what I'm talking about in this presentation. Give those transition statements in between and wrap it all up like I'm doing now. Questions, comments, concerns, do not hesitate to reach out to me. Do not hesitate to email me, and I will see you all in the next video.